Sports Show presents House of Rugby.
Hello, and you're all very welcome to House of Rugby. My name's Maire Treasa, and I'm delighted to be joined on this week's show by Dan Leavy and Pat McCarry. How are you both doing, lads? Good weekend?
Yeah, really good, yeah. We're well back in, the kids are all back in school, and I've been kicked out of the house and I told my even wife today I'm going to go into the studio, and she was like, yes, please
get out, Pat,
get out of
we've
my
seen
face
enough of you.
Yeah, so yeah, all settled back. Yeah, really good.
Dan, I know we were chatting for an event during the Rugby World Cup for Joe.ie about your life post-rugby. For those who weren't there, who weren't lucky enough to be there that night, how's life treating you? This is your chance to get the whiskey plug in there.
Yeah, thanks. You teed it up very nicely
Thank
for
you
me
very
there.
much.
Yeah, life's good. Watching a lot of rugby, getting close now to the Six Nations again, and selling a lot of whiskey as well. So brand's doing well. It's called Ohm Whiskey for anyone who doesn't know. We're into our third release now. Support's been amazing. We're absolutely loving it. We sold out the first two in like kind of 5.5 hours odd, and we're on to our third one now. It's a slightly bigger release, but it's going really well. We've got a couple of really good plans and ad campaigns and everything coming up now over the next while, and we've got another couple of really cool releases coming early March this year. So yeah, it's going well.
Exciting times. Do you still get excited about rugby in the same way that you did as a player, like European weekend now? Do you look forward to watching it? Has there been enough of a gap from retiring?
Almost more so now. When you're playing, you're very excited, but there's also there's a lot of moving parts. You're nervous. Your whole week is lined up for 80 minutes of basically war. You know what I mean? So now, kind of go throughout your week and do whatever you have to do, and then when it comes to the weekend, European rugby is special. You get rugby, Friday nights, all of Saturday, all of Sunday. It's just amazing to watch, and such an amazing spectacle. As a player, I used to never watch any more rugby than I had to, so I'd be very diligent with my prep and scouting of oppositions, and I'd have to know them inside out. But when it's your job, you definitely want a bit of distance as well, and I'm not going to be sitting down to watch Dragon Zebre on my Friday night off.
What?
You know what I mean? Yeah. I know it's champagne rugby, but not for me. Overkill. So yeah, that's the way. So I love it now. Just sitting down watching all the rugby on the weekend, and then even I got to go to the Leinster Stad game, and they had a kind of the first day of the Leinster Past Players Network was launched, and amazing initiative. You see Leinster players that have been played for the last 30 years all went, and it was great to kind of start to build out that network. I know a lot of other clubs, Saracens have a really strong one. I think Leicester have a really strong one where, for example, if you're a player now, you're interested in a certain industry or, whatever it is, you can go to that network and see someone who's 20 years, 30 years, ahead who will help you and kind of guide you and give you contacts. So it's an amazing initiative, and credit to Ron O'Donnell and Leo's helped a lot. I think Rob Carney was involved in setting it up as well. So it was a good first day.
Yeah, there was a real atmosphere I felt around the Aviva on Saturday. Over 40,000 people there as well, and it's brilliant to see. Does it feel much different European week as a player when you're building up to these games as opposed to the league?
Yeah, there's a bit more lights on it. There's with Leinster, they've got such a strong and deep squad that they can rotate a lot of players, and when you come into Europe, it's going to be as close to full strength as possible. Leinster in the old format, Leinster would be just hammering every team, and it was kind of not that. I think if you look at last year when Leinster played Montpellier and beat them that was 2 years ago, played Montpellier and beat them by 70 points in Christmas time. At least it was a slightly closer game this time. I thought Stad did quite well, and I didn't think Leinster were firing straight away off on all cylinders. But yeah, it was a good game. It was a good spectacle, and we got to see some nice tries and everything in the end.
Yeah, we'll touch on those games a little later on, but we'll kick things off with Munster. I think the performance and the game of the weekend, they were up against it. They hadn't won a game since the start of December. They hadn't won a game away from home all season, crippled by injuries and their set piece malfunctioning. And of course, Munster go away to Toulon in France and manage a magnificent performance.
Yeah, and it was funny because you guys were all in here I think it was like Blue Monday was yesterday, but it felt like last week. Like everyone was getting injured and people were pulling out of squads and stuff like that, and it felt like Andy Farrell was kind of in a place where who's he going to pick? There was like disasters maybe at out half, at back three, and all of a sudden then after the weekend you're feeling a lot better. Like, you know, Lowe got back, Furlong's back, O'Mahony's back, and then you just saw in that Munster game around 4 or 5 lads really stepped up, and like if they were kind of maybe on the fringes, all of a sudden you're saying, okay, I'd be feel confident about him in the squad. Like just so many good performances, and then like it's just good to see Crowley. Like, I thought the good part about it, he wasn't perfect, but yet it didn't look like his confidence took a knock. Like, he still kept trying things and trying out the kicks in behind. A couple of great kind of kicks as well, and linked up with a Hearn for one of his tries as well. And because he did a kick there in the first half, and it went straight to I'm trying to even think of what it's a little bit like one of the Fijians. I think he was a sevens player, absolutely rinsed around 5 of the lads, and then got an offload away, and it looked like, okay, like for a younger player, for somebody else, they might not try it again, but Crowley just kind of stepped up, and later in the half,
he stuck to the game plan. He wasn't afraid to try it again and again.
Yeah, and that's it, and you could really see it there, like work to perfection with the Zebo try, like, and yeah, they were like good value for their win, like, so yeah, and that's it. And then that's the big thing. It felt like that, wasn't it? They went away to Wasps a couple of years ago during COVID, and after some of the lads went to South Africa, and whenever you kind of are tempted to write them off, they just come back and kind of produce something. So, they'll be in a lot better position now going into this weekend's game. But yeah, loads of positives there for them, I thought. Yeah,
they badly needed to get some bodies back, Dan, and they got the likes of Peter O'Mahony, Niall Scannell, and Nankivell, Joey Carberry back, and this experience was really needed from Munster's performances up until now, when they have been struggling over the past couple of weeks. What difference did those players make, you know, settling the line out and the elements that they were struggling with?
Yeah, I thought Scannell came in and did a really good job. I think you could see the leadership that Pete brought as well. Definitely kind of steadied the ship a little bit, which was good to see. I think Roundtree kind of went back to his old guard a little bit. And I think Munster looked better for it. I know they still have a lot of injuries. I mean, you know, Dave Kilcoyne is definitely one. I think they're still missing, Klein and Snyman. You know, if you add those guys into any mix, it's going to be a different team. So the guys coming back definitely helped. I thought Scannell definitely shored up. Between Scannell and Pete, they shored up a lot of the line out and set piece, and Scannell got through a hell of a lot of work with Hodnett and Ahern, who I'm really, really thinking is going from strength to strength at the moment. I mean, huge man, serious athlete. Like, how many tries he scored out in the off crossfield kicks and in the wide channels now. So I think he's definitely one now that should be looking at the Six Nations, an amazing opportunity to get a foothold into the Irish team. You know, for Farrell now, obviously after the heartbreak of the World Cup and stuff, and like signing in with the IRFE for you know, the extension to the next World Cup, I think this is a good opportunity for them to start looking at what's coming next. Obviously it's amazing to win Grand Slams, and you know, but at the end of the day, we should be looking at the next World Cup now as a real opportunity for us. It's very, you know, you can just look at some of the players that played over the weekend, young players that have amazing potential, and there's a lot to be excited about in Irish rugby at the moment.
Definitely. And before we move off Munster, like, this result could definitely reignite their season. They have Northampton coming to town this weekend. Would you have them as contenders for Europe now? I know the whole narrative around Munster really has changed with this one result, because the results that they've had up until now, although they were losing games, they were not far off clicking. It was more down to game management in the last 20 minutes, which they got right this weekend. Yeah,
I suppose it's a matter of, staying in it, and as they did last season, it's just like if they're in there, like, you know, for the final month of the season, then there's a chance, because they might get a few. I think even O'Donoghue's been ruled out for another few months as well, like with his knee issue. I think he was cleared out, wasn't he, in the Connacht game as well, like, and I think Ralston got himself a 3-game ban, like, and O'Donoghue's out now for the guts of the season, but I think Haley's coming back soon enough for them as well, like, so that makes a big difference. Like, whenever they get him back, they can start changing things around. But Yeah, it was just so good to see him at the weekend. You see like Kendall and Gleeson on the bench from as well, who kind of like Gleeson looks like a real prospect, and so they have a little bit more depth, or those younger lads have a bit more experience this season. So
well, they've had to. They've had to step up. They've had no choice. They've missed so many key players.
Yeah, and it'll be
they're not contenders. Come on.
Do you think?
You think
if they got some of the players back.
Yeah, but I don't think I don't think they're there.
Do you think if they got like home draw, like maybe it might help their cause? Like if they'd need to win again this weekend.
But they won't get home if they win that either, would they?
For last 16 or anything like that? Yeah. I don't know. They could.
I think they're just missing. With Snyman and Klein, I think they're missing a lot of players.
Snyman, I think, is still on course to come back in March. I think Klein is out for the rest of the season. All right, but the players that they have that are on the waiting list to come back in, even with that, you don't reckon?
Well, listen, I might have to eat my words soon, but I think they've been. I know they've contended with Leinster a couple of times, but I think they're just losing too many games. I don't think I think what Rountree tried to do, he tried to go to the younger players, and I don't really think they're there yet. So he's kind of going back.
It's
he's
still at the start of the rebuild.
Yeah, it happened last year as well. Like Munster were really, really struggling up until the very end of the year.
Yeah,
and they went on a run, and that was Rountree playing all of his young players for a hell of a long time, and they were getting nowhere. And then he swapped all back to his old guard, and they won him, and then they got ditched again. You know what I mean? So, I think they're kind of not falling between two stools, but they really need to figure out who they are now going forward. I do think O'Mahony and Scannell are going to add a lot, and but yeah, I think there's just quite a few big injuries there in that squad. So
I was going to throw in just like if you've seen, because he's played, I think every game he started as this season has been at 7 as well. But have you seen much of Hodnett? Like like what do you make of him as a guy? Like
I like him. He's industrious. My concern would be that he's not the biggest guy, and he's not. To get to the next level, you need to be pretty physically imposing, and but he is. I think he made 20 plus tackles in the weekend as well.
Yeah.
He's the type of person you don't like playing against. He's an absolute menace. So, in fairness, now he is going from strength to strength. And
he's been one of their consistent performers, even when Munster weren't winning.
Yeah, no, I agree with it. I agree with that as well. But yeah, it's one thing playing, early stage Pro 14 and kind of group stage of Europe, and it's a different thing coming up against La Rochelle, and we'll see how effective he is against the big boys. So that's where I'd have him at the moment.
Well, it looks like a few of the French sides are taking it a bit more seriously. Even Saracens got walloped there at the weekend, and like Bordeaux are kind of looking like they're up for it as well. And I think Bordeaux I've been unbelievably impressed with Bordeaux so far this season. Even from the first game, they went out and winning by 30, 40 points. They've got one of the best backlines in arguably in like world rugby in terms of club level. With Luku and they've Mortier, Mofana. They've got Penot. They've got some absolutely exceptional Jalibert and 10. They're absolutely star-studded, and like they absolutely ripped Saracens to shreds. It was an unbelievable game to watch. If you want to see some free-flowing rugby,
I saw the highlights of it.
Great team to watch. And like Saracens, I think scored 2 tries at the very end in garbage time, so they beat them 45 odd, 45-7 or something. So very, very impressive.
Maybe Connacht weren't as bad as we thought on the opening round when we see what they do against other teams. Well, we'll look at other results from Europe in a little while, but we're going to turn our focus now to the big news this week. We were all shocked that Andy Farrell was named as Lions head coach on Thursday, and here's what he had to say at the launch.
It's me being myself. It's me trying to put across to the talented group of players that I work with, that I certainly am going to work with, and letting them flourish for the type of people that they are, to be able to express themselves. 100% the talent's going to be there, so I need to make sure that I'm allowing that talent to flourish. Well, I'll balance the two roles by making sure that I give both roles the right attention that both roles deserve. I wouldn't take on this role unless I could do both roles to the best of my ability. And and therefore I'm very grateful from the IRFU again for this opportunity.
He was the obvious candidate, Dan, and the right man for the job. What does he bring to the role, do you think?
Yeah, I think definitely with the Lions coach, it's a lot of it is about man management. So you're going to get a huge pool of players coming from all over Ireland and the UK, and it's just about getting them to gel and getting the most out of them as soon as possible. The fact he's been on 2 tours before and that those kind of glowing references, and even like you see the clips of him on YouTube, and so that's his bread and butter, and that's why. Look at the Irish camp, how well they were gelling and how well in sync they were over in France in the World Cup. So that's what he's going to bring. I think it's important for World Rugby that Australia are firing and it's a competitive series because, if you look at the players that Lions will have at their disposal going down there, it's going to be an absolute mammoth task for them. So it's important that comes around. But I think he's the natural pick. I think he'll do a great job, and knowing Andy as a person, he's a great dude, and he will do a great job.
He was there in 2013 and 2017, and he understands the Lions. He understands what it's about. How different will it be now for him from what he's doing with Ireland at the moment, stepping into this role? Yeah,
there'd be kind of a lot more of those kind of going to kind of, I suppose you're talking to the club coaches beyond that kind of remit as well, and it'd be interesting to see, what does he use the kind of summer months to do? Like, I know they play South Africa then, but does he start going around during pre-season and seeing, does he start teasing that out already? Or does he completely... It was interesting to see that he didn't take a full season-long sabbatical. He wants to be around for the November games later on this year, and he's only going to take up the role in December. But will he be doing anything, even just starting to formulate a plan or talk to coaches about, you're going to come in and do this job or that job? Already I saw talk that, would it be stepping it too far to maybe take Paul O'Connell as well? Because he'd kind of link in really well, and who else is he getting involved?
Where does that leave Ireland?
Yeah, I know, so who else kind of can come in, he'll kind of know how it works, and then he seems to have, even talking to the players before the World Cup, themes to kind of get the players all to buy in, and they were getting kind of mountain climbers in, and kind of talking about forging a path for yourself, and that was the big talk about when they went to the play New Zealand, you guys are going to be the guys to create history over here, and he got all the guys to buy into that. So will he do similar? I was kind of wondering, would you ever kind of buy into that? I know some players do, but those things of it definitely seem to work in New Zealand, but you only hear about the things when they work. You don't hear about the ones that fail, I suppose, do you?
I heard about that one.
yeah, because they won,
I mean, a lot of coaches do it just for a bit of direction. It'd be one of the many kind of tools he uses, but 100%.
But he does seem to have that kind of, all I'm seeing is from the outside, you talk to some of the players who know him, but they do seem to have that kind of real respect for him as well, and he kind of seems to kind of get onto that kind of personal level with people as well, and then I suppose you'd have that kind of instant connection with the English players then as well, it's a matter of then starting to build out your team then and getting people to scout on your behalf, and you're watching extra footage and stuff like that. But you probably already would have, again, the Six Nations is so good that you're starting to see players, even in his head now, he'll be thinking next year. So if some guy goes out and puts in a good performance against Ireland, that'll be jotted down somewhere, I'd say, or it's in the back of his mind at least.
Is Simon Easterby the man to step into the head coach role while he's gone? And do you see any negatives from an Ireland perspective, Andy Farrell taking this job, if we're looking ahead to building for the World Cup?
No, I think it's definitely good for Farrell, and it's good exposure, and he'll get a very good insight into other camps as well, and kind of what goes on there, which he could use at a later stage. It kind of depends on who he takes with him. That'll kind of, have obviously a big effect on Ireland. If he brings Paulie, does Simon take over? Does Rog come in? I don't think Rog probably would come in, but I think what he's done with La Rochelle, I think he, as a candidate down the line for the Irish job, is got to be the front runner down the line in terms of, he's worked with the Crusaders, he's worked with Racing, and now what he's done with La Rochelle, what he's built there. So I don't think he would be interested in coming in for a kind of an interim head coach kind of role. I think it's a good opportunity, whether it's Paulie or Simon. I think it's a great opportunity. I think if I was Farrell, I probably wouldn't take the whole bones of the Irish team out and leave Ireland for a while. I think it's a good opportunity for Paulie to take a kind of head coach role there in the interim as well, and kind of grow himself. Like, people forget Paul went straight into the Irish forwards coach, which is unbelievably kind of peculiar. I don't think that's ever happened.
I suppose he'll have to look at other nations as well to have that balance there in the coaching ticket.
Yeah. I think one of the beautiful things about it is you can get exposure to it. Like, it's a massive honour. It's it's pretty much as top a level as you can get to getting to represent that, and you can bring people that might bring something slightly different. That again you mightn't have known about, and you'll pick up little bits off him that'll help ultimately with the Irish role. So he does have that at his disposal. I'm sure he'll bring a couple of lads with him, but I think it's important he doesn't take the whole kind of skeleton out and leave Ireland in disarray.
Does the Lions still have the same allure that it once did? I know 2021 was very different in South Africa because the fans make the Lions so special, and the touring party and all of that kind of carnival atmosphere around it, and you didn't have that in 2021. As Dan was saying, it's important that Australia are competitive, but are people excited about this tour? I know it's very early. It's 18 months out.
It is funny. Yeah, like Australia will have to. You wonder, is Nucifora going to get involved, or like I think even they're having to. I think even their GM was kind of having to kind of step down as well. Like, they're almost having to do a complete overhaul in the next couple of years and bring players in. They're already losing players to kind of rugby league as well. Like, so how do they? I suppose they have the big kind of. They tried to bring Eddie Jones back, and that went horribly wrong as well. Like, but yeah, they have, I suppose, the home World Cup. They have the Lions, so hopefully that'll kind of tempt a few more lads as well to kind of stick around. Or
Joe Schmidt's name is still being thrown about.
Yeah, they might have to go big, like, with a big coach. And then I was saying, in a way, it'll be the media's job to hype up Australia as much as they can and pretend that it's going to be close as well. But it will be like that.
Look, if you want to send me to Australia, I'm free. I'm cool with that.
Yeah. But like, I know, I think it's a big deal. Like, like it doesn't dominate, but like it's in the conversation for all of next year. The minute 2024-25 season starts, it'll be conversations. He should be in the mix. There's nothing I enjoy more than putting potential teams and squads together, and everybody does it, and that's the beauty of, like, you'll have Scots and Welsh and Irish and English all arguing over who should be in it, and then again the shame is, I think the Australia one is always like maybe the tour. If Australia aren't strong, the South Africa and New Zealand tours are the more kind of marquee tours, like, but I'd say there will be a lot of excitement around it because, all going well, no more pandemics hitting us or anything like that. It should be a massive occasion, like, so yeah, I think it's still got that kind of luster to it, I think. Yeah.
Well, Farrell's focus quickly turns to this year's Six Nations, and his squad is being announced tomorrow. It's a 37-man squad. A good few talking points because of the injury list, and this will be his first competition without Johnny Sexton. So if we start with the number 10, if Crowley is looked at as the nailed-on starter and the injury list that Leinster have at the moment, who are coming up after him?
I think a lot's dictated on whether Frawley's going to be fit or not. Hopefully, if it is just his ribs and it's not anything more serious than that, I'm assuming he'll be pulled into camp. And then it's, who do you want with that third spot? And if it were me, I'd probably, if it was between Harry Byrne and Sam Prendergast at the moment, I'd probably pick Sam. I think Harry's been in Irish camp a few times before, and even just the exposure, he won't be playing against France either way if Frawley's fit. So just to be in the environment, to kind of see the level of training and what's expected, will be good. Will be definitely very beneficial, and it'll also give Harry a good opportunity in Leinster to put a couple of 80 minutes together. I think the 10 jersey in Leinster is an absolute hot seat at the moment, and we all kind of knew it was going to be like that a little bit, but everyone's going in, they're playing one game, they're getting swapped out, and no one's really put their hand up. And I know Ross Byrne will be coming back in the next couple of weeks. He's telling me his S&C is going very well. He's feeling jacked. But like, they do miss him, definitely. I think he's been quite unlucky, but I think everyone in that Leinster 10 jersey has been pretty unlucky so far. But again, they'd be the three. I'd start Crowley at the moment. I I think I'm still not fully convinced on Crowley, but what he did against Toulon has given me a lot more confidence. I think the first game, Munster's first European game, I thought he was really rattled in that game, and I kind of, he went down in my stock a little bit. He was, putting a lot of really kind of helter-skelter kicks, and looked like he really kind of lost the head. But again, you alluded to earlier on against Toulon, he was a bit more composed, and that's a good win on the road. Toulon to be away from home is a very good win. So I'd probably have him one, and then if Rawley's fit, you definitely have to put him on the bench as well, just in terms of his coverage and everything as well, and then bring Sam in and get him into the environment as well.
Have any of the other 10s, the likes of Billy Burns, we saw what he did against Leinster now, against Toulouse, he couldn't back it up. Has he done enough?
Yeah, look, he gave a lot of teams a blueprint on what Leinster don't like. I know there's still a lot of growing pains with that defensive system. So, to be honest, I actually think losses early in the season where you get burnt and you can learn from are actually a good thing. So, it wasn't near a Leinster full strength team, but they'll know now. Teams will look at that and say, this is how you beat Leinster, you kick loads. So if Leinster can sort out that D and make sure that they're not exposed like that again, it's prefer to make this now than later on this season. But Billy was sensational in that game. Between those 3 or 4 kicks alone, definitely deserved of the man of the match. But then you see the flip side of that, Toulouse coming to town, and they absolutely destroyed them, and Billy had a tough day at the office. So and then the other provinces, I don't think there's been a lot of injuries in Connacht as well, and
Is there anyone that you think merits inclusion?
I've always liked Jack Carty, but it seems like it'd be like if I was picking a squad and with all the injuries around, I'd put him in, but I don't think Andy Farrell will put him in. That I suppose if you're kind of selecting that way, but. So he seems to have kind of made up his mind on a few players, I would say, from over the last couple of years, which is why some of the Zebo talk has been interesting, because you're like, there's surely no way he's coming in from the wilderness after 6 years out. But again, there's so many injuries and people that are there that it would make sense. But is now the time to just kind of say, bring in Prendergast or something like that? And I've seen what Carty can do for me. I'm not convinced or something like that. So Prendergast is the man. Prendergast has started 4 games for Leinster. He looked even in the under-20s there. He had a couple of iffy games. He started the tournament off well, but then was kicking, really improved by the end of it. But still, I would say maybe if there was other players fit, I wonder if he'd even do the development player thing, bringing in 2 or 3 again. And that's why Frawley is in there to cover. And then
John Hodnett could be one of those players that comes in, on the development, because there's so much depth in the back row. It would be very hard for him to break through.
Yeah, I mean, even Scott Penny did something similar a few years ago, and he got a lot out of it. But it's competitive. It's very competitive, particularly with Pete coming back into the mix now.
Yeah, and there are no injuries in the back row at the moment. When you look at the starting team that we had in the World Cup, are there none of the big names are out?
No, Conan,
they're all fit.
Doris Van der Fleer's back. Yeah, it's even there. 6 is so. That's the captaincy chat is interesting, because O'Mahony's back then, but then you can have Byrne could come back, Ahern can play 6, you can have Prendergast can play 6. Baird has been doing pretty decent there as well. So that's just you have 5 options for that one jersey then as well. So that's what kind of makes all this kind of captaincy chat so interesting, because O'Mahony, for as good as he was, and he looked good in the World Cup, it's just he might not start every game. So you have kind of. You could even have a shared captaincy. They're not going to say it because they're not going to go down that Leinster route of Ryan and Ringrose as shared captains, but you might have someone like Pete captaining for 2 or 3 games and then Ringrose doing it for a couple of games or something like that. But they're stacked there in the back row. It'd be very interesting to see, because even Will Connors has came back and done really well. And he did, he was that horse for course against La Rochelle and was brilliant for his 50 minutes that he started. But then does he make the squad as well? So it's the one really unit where you could pick 12 lads for something like that.
If we're looking at Baird and Ahern, 2 players that really want to break through for the same position, what are the main differences, and who would you be leaning towards, Dan?
They're both kind of unbelievably athletic back rows. I think I think Ryan Baird's been playing really, really well as well. He's really impressed me. Even on the weekend, he's a supreme athlete. Some of the line breaks he makes, but he seems to have toughened up a little bit, and he's getting a bit nasty as well, which is good to see. I think Ahern has been exceptional all year. Even from the first game, I saw him the Leinster-Munster game in the Aviva, and I thought he was unbelievable for that whole game. He's just a massive man, and I think between the two of them, they should be vying for a jersey now. And look, they mightn't get in straight away against France, but it's a long tournament. People pick up niggles, and it's kind of to stay motivated and stay ready to perform if you get that opportunity.
Is the starting pack as it was for you? The pack that we finished with, say, in the World Cup, our starters, would you change anyone there? Has anyone, I suppose, pushed far enough ahead to merit inclusion, and who do you leave out?
I think the front row is probably the same. James Ryan will start. I think Hendy's been quite good as well, so I'm not sure if they'll go to a Joe McCarthy or someone else straight away. They might put him on the bench or something like that. Well, you've got Ty Byrne as well, so it's very competitive.
Yeah.
That's why in the positions where everyone's fit, I don't think you're going to put out your more experience for the first game in Marseille. It's going to be a tough battle. I don't think that's the time to let Joe McCarthy get a run around. So I think maybe at home for the next game's Italy. Am I right saying that?
Yeah.
So I think that's when we'll see a lot of new faces, hopefully, and get a few new caps and get these guys blooded that in 4 years' time when we're looking at the next World Cup, we can actually we've used the Six Nations the right way.
Another slot that needs to be filled because of injury is the right wing, because Mac Hansen is out, Jimmy O'Brien is out. We're not going to get a like for like when it comes to Mac Hansen. He brings so much to Ireland and to the competition. It's such a pity that we won't see him this Six Nations, but it's an opportunity for another player. Who would you have in there when you look at the likes of Calvin Nash, Jordan Larmour, Rob Balakoon, Jacob Stockdale? I don't know. Is there anyone else who's your number one?
Probably, if I was just like the game is this weekend, I'd go Nash, but I still believe in Robert Balakoon. I still think that he's a test player. I still think he could be there. If they work with him a bit more, he made a defensive lapse against Fiji, and he hasn't been seen since. That's how tough it can be when you're in there. But I still, and he's been unlucky with injuries. I'd still like to think him, but I'd go Nash. He just has taken so much confidence from being in with that squad over the summer, that he came and took that form back for Munster. So you would say he deserves his chance, and he could be like Conway. Andrew Conway is a guy that you'd always kind of underestimate, and he'd go in and get you 2 tries against Wales or something like that, or he'd just be so steady without being spectacular. I think
he was pretty spectacular at the weekend, Calvin Nash.
Yeah. Oh, jeepers, yeah. There's me talking about him not being spectacular. He had that brilliant try. Yeah. So he is capable of that, and you can see. He's almost next man up. I would have said Jimmy O'Brien was next man up, but then he was unfortunate with his injury as well. So Nash is the next guy, but I'd still like to see Balakoon in the squad. Just maybe for my own personal preference, I like him as a player. But I think Nash, it's the easiest guy to slot in at 14.
Does it come down to Nash against Larmour, do you think?
I think so. I think there's probably at the moment Jordan Larmour is playing very well, and I think what you're going to get with Jordan Larmour. I think Nash, having got that little bit of exposure at the end of last year, has really, really grown from it. So I think if you get him give him a proper opportunity now to go off and see how he does, I think there could be potentially a little bit more upside with him. So again, look, the way I look at it, and not everyone would be the same, I don't think this is Six Nations where Ireland should be going out trying to win the Grand Slam. I think this is where you blood your players and you look at 4 years, and the way the World Cup finished and stuff like that, it was pretty brutal, but one eye always has to be on that now going forward. And I think we're not guilty of just focusing on the Six Nations too much, because even when we won the last one, the Grand Slam, it was all win a Grand Slam to go in with momentum to the World Cup. So we're starting to get it now, but look, if they come third and they have 10 new caps, and you can see a real growth in the team, and these guys come out of that and really kick on in the summer series, then happy days in my opinion.
What bolters would you like to see in there? Names maybe that I haven't mentioned yet.
We've kind of talked about a lot of them. Yeah, I definitely want to see Tom Ahern play. I think he could be really, really good. I'd like to see Ryan Baird get an opportunity as well. I know they're pretty competing with positions, but really bring him on a bit. I think he could do very well.
Simon Zebo is enjoying a brilliant run of form at the moment. Would they look towards him as maybe backup to Hugo Keenan?
Probably not. I wouldn't say. I know he's playing very well. He's like an absolute legend, but I don't think Zebo is the type of guy you bring in for the leadership part. He's been playing well, but I think as I keep coming back to it, this is where you look to the next
young players,
and I don't think he's the right direction.
Anyone else that we haven't mentioned, Pat?
Oh, I was at the shame there. I kept looking at, like, Leinster would give you the injury updates every Monday, and I kept looking for Jamie Osborne, but he's still not back. Like, because it was a shame for him, like, because he was doing so well last season. There's so much, like, he's spoken of so well as well, and I kind of would have thought with the backline injuries he would have got in there, but it doesn't look like he's going to be back in time to. You could have come in later. I think with this is sometimes people think this is the Six Nations squad. It's only for the first couple of rounds, like, so there is a chance for other people to come in and out. But yes, if Sam Prendergast made the squad as well, him and Ahern probably be the 2-1 caps, and then maybe like an outsider would be someone like Hodnett or something like that. And then I can't think of anybody else who's kind of. My big case was for Kilgallen earlier in the season as well, because I like him as a player as well, but he hasn't played now for a few weeks as well, so he could be caught up with an injury too. Like, but yeah, they're the kind of ones. But then I think Farrell could, like, I think there could be a couple of surprises still in this squad tomorrow. Like, he could be surprised by a couple of these guys that he has seen there's potential there and has brought in that, like, we might not even be predicting here. Yeah.
And is after saying in my ear now that Jaeger's injury will be updated by the end of this week, so there could still be good news coming our way when it comes to Jaeger. And before we move on from Ireland and the Six Nations, where do you feel like Ireland need to build the most depth, Dan?
Everywhere. I think, look, if you look at, even in the game against New Zealand, in the 10 role, they wanted to keep Johnny on. I don't know if that was nostalgia or not, but like, Jack Crowley wasn't ready to go in, and I think Johnny could have been gone after 60 minutes, but you couldn't bring on, so that, you know what I mean. There's stuff like that. I think with Lucet, if you think about Porter playing, they probably didn't have that much confidence in Dave Kilcoyne, even though the picture needed to change so if Cian Healy's fit, you know what I mean, so it is the ultimate, it's a savage game, and it's not 15 players now wins you, it is the squad, and it's even beyond the squad. So I mean, look, I think we're fortunate that we have a lot of really good back rows. Even Cian Prendergast, we haven't even talked about him. I think he's been playing really well as well at the moment. So that's kind of one position we're usually quite good in. And then we're pretty lucky that we have Robbie, Bundy and Gary all in the centre, and Jamie Osborne coming through, and there's a couple of other ones there. I think the set piece is always going to be big. That's why I really like as in the front five, I really like that we actually have a lot of absolute giants coming through as well, because at the end of the day, when you come against South Africa, they're going to have an enormous team, and a lot, like, that's the way rugby's trending against big athletes. That's why I love seeing Joe McCarthy running around, Tom Ahern running around, even Brian Gleeson and some of these young players coming through from Munster. Edwin Adogbo, poor lad as well. Like, I thought he was really doing well this season. These guys are all 125 to 135. Big athletes, with what Ireland need. And typically we haven't really had. We've been a little bit light. So people like that coming on is is important. So to answer your question, depth everywhere.
Everywhere. Okay, before we finish up, Leinster's drive for 5 is still on track. They beat Stad at the weekend with 7 tries. It wasn't a perfect performance, Pat, but they were impressive.
Yeah, and just some. So it's like, I suppose again, like you're looking maybe even ahead of that. Like it's just certain players. Like it was great to see them. Like Caelan Doris was everywhere. Leinster said they put out a heat map. Like it's you don't normally see that in rugby. You normally see that in football. But
what was that?
Yeah, if it's true, he was all over the place. Like,
there was no data on that at all. It was just like, it was awful.
A Photoshop job. Like, but yeah, no, he was really good. And then Sheehan took his try really well. And Larmer, he's doing all he can. And then just good to see like Lowe back, because Lowe was very there wasn't much to talk about him. Like he just didn't play after the World Cup, and there wasn't too much information given on him. So it's great that he was kind of back then as well. So they would have just been happy with the kind of performances of a few of those lads, and they'll be very happy. And as Dan was mentioning, like Ryan Baird is kind of everything that's kind of been loaded on top of him, because he had that thing. He was dropped from the matchday 23 for that New Zealand game, and McCarthy was picked ahead of him, so that would have hurt him a good bit. Like, and I think he has the potential to be a starter, like for Ireland in the Six Nations. Like, so good to see him kind of going well. So and then Frawley, this was his chance to start 2 games at 10 in a row in Europe and show everybody I can do it, and that he might not even play this weekend, but it was good to then have Prendergast play half an hour, and he was chuffed with himself at the end, like looking at some of the photos and videos of kind of like, this is it, this is real, and he'll have taken a lot from that if he has to start this weekend. Like, so just a lot of positives, and like fair play to Leinster as well for getting such a big crowd out as well, considering that Stad were kind of sending a shadow team almost, like, you know.
Yeah, that's the thing. It was largely a second string Stad team, so the opposition have to be taken into consideration when analysing this performance, and Leinster won't be getting ahead of themselves, Dan, but what positives would you take from it?
Yeah, look, it's been a trend. I said, Montpellier sent over their lambs a couple of years ago and lost 75-0. So it's like, it's not a precedent, but Sale did similar. They weren't full strength in the first game of Europe. So teams just know how hard it is to come to the Viva, particularly, early in the year, where Leinster are typically firing pretty well. But look, you can only beat who's ahead of you. I actually think sometimes if you send over a younger team, you get players who wouldn't typically get a shot, so they're really up for it, and it's actually quite hard to break them down. I think we saw that a little bit in the start of the Stad game, where it did take a while. I think they scored right on half time to make it 17, but it was relatively close. But yeah, look, it's, I think in last seasons with Leinster, they've almost, I wouldn't say peaked too early, but they're playing like top rugby in kind of December time. And this year is a little bit different, where we've got a new defensive system and we haven't been firing on all cylinders. It's probably the best performance they've had so far this year. But still a hell of a lot of growth there, and a hell of a lot of people to come back from injury and stuff like that, which is exciting. So hopefully they can keep that momentum going, and they can really start to peak at the business end at the right time of the season. They
have Leicester away this weekend. Leicester are 3rd in the pool, and they're currently 7th in the Premiership, and they're still fighting to advance in the competition. Leinster have secured their place in the round of 16, and I think only need 1 point to garner home advantage. So Leinster will want to make sure of that. But Leicester, what are you expecting from them at home?
Yeah, they look decent. Like, it's a strange Premiership this year, isn't it? Like, with so few sides and stuff like that. But they've looked decent in some of their games. Like, so I still kind of think Leinster will be going for the win. Like Leinster would never go for like, let's take the bonus point or anything like that. I still would fancy Leinster's chances as well. But Leicester kind of they've come on. Like, there's a couple of it's hard to kind of judge the Premiership, really, isn't it? Because there's a couple of like the likes of Gloucester who's just gone out and losing every game, and like he can look great one week and not the next. But they'll be targeting kind of like a kind of big performance this weekend. But I do think I'd fancy Leinster to edge it though still.
Ulster and Connacht, we don't have much time left, but Connacht, a step too far for them in Europe. Do they gain anything or benefit anything from getting performances like this? From games like this away?
No, like it's tough to start off your European campaign the way they did, and it's very hard to turn it around after that. But even with they played that game in Lyon on the weekend, and they had Bundy on the bench. Were they really in it? I know they scored early, but I think they're. Yeah, it was just I like what they're doing down there. I like the direction, and Pete Wilkins and the coach and stuff. I actually do like what they're doing, but they're just fighting on too many fronts here at the moment. I think they've been really good in the league in a couple of games, and they've shown growth and sparks of what they want to become. But for them, I had nothing to be gained really. And Ulster, are they still in contention? They won one of
They
the
need
games,
to beat Harlequins to win.
And they're away.
They're
for
away
that.
in the stoop.
It'd be tough. Like Harlequins are looking pretty good at the moment. Anytime you've got Marcus Smith and Danny Kerr running around, they're pretty dangerous. But look, it's by no means an impossible kind of feat going over there. I'd say a lot of teams would almost write them off after that Toulouse game. So they'll go in there and give it everything they can, and hopefully they can get a win.